Hello, my name is Sile Walsh and I specialise in inclusive and strategic leadership development and organisational development. I'm going to speak a little bit today around our relationship with power and how that impacts leaders in terms of how they lead, how they relate to power, how that impacts how they feel, and how they influence. So, power is a really complicated topic, and there's lots of research out there. So, I'm going to keep this really specific to what leaders need to think about when it comes to power and what leadership teams need to consider when it comes to power. So, the very first thing that you need to think about is what comes up for you when I say the word power. I've had lots of people I work with have cringed, withdrawn from the word, been very uncomfortable. I've written in a recent article about the fact that some people reject power and other people are hungry for power and are never satisfied with the level of power that they seek. The reason for this is that most of the time when people seek power externally, they haven't built a firm sense of self-empowerment or personal power. And so they can't sustain external power. It never feels quite enough because they need more and more of it. Often people who reject power, and leaders in particular, when I work with leaders who are rejecting power, one of the things that we notice is that their relationship with power is off. They've either had negative experiences in the past or bad role models, or they naturally associate power with negativity or with bad behaviour. But when you reject power, what is likely to be happening is you are likely to be uncomfortable with your own power over yourself, your personal power, your empowerment, and you're likely to have not learnt the nuances of power in relationship to others. And this can come from lots of things. We learn about power in our formative years, we learn about power in our teenage years, we learn about it in our first job, in our first position of power, or the first position where others had power over us. For most people, our first experience of power was with our parents. It moves on then to teachers, aunts and uncles, first employer, and so on. So in terms of leadership, to be able to lead in an empowered way, we first need to have a really strong relationship with power, and we need to understand how power plays out for us as an individual, how it played out in the systems that we come from, the family systems, the cultural systems, the societal systems that power plays out in. We then need to look at how we were educated and developed into the role that we have. Did power come from knowledge? Did power come from status? Did power come from financial access? Did power come from our professional title? Did power come from what other people thought about us? Did power come from an internal source? We need to think about how we got to where we are and what kinds of powers are respected and rewarded in the state. An example is that there's often power in terms of physical power, and we know through different levels of research around in society that men generally react to physical power, have been socialized to react to physical power through strength or height, but we know that women react to physical power through how they use that is through attractiveness. So sometimes what might look like a power might look very different in different settings based on gender, experience, culture, and a number of other things. The type of environment that you're in will source and see power differently. So as a leader, we need to think about all of these things. And it's not that we need to sit there and reflect all day, but we do need to give it some time to understand that our relationship with power will have an impact on how empowered we are as leaders and also how well we empower others, because we're very unlikely to be able to create an environment of empowerment for others if we aren't feeling empowered ourselves. We're very likely to hold on to certain types of power, withhold information, avoid certain types of conversations, not sit well with anxiety, attempt to control things more than we need to, micromanage. So these are all signs that power is misplaced or misunderstood, or that a leader's relationship with power isn't going well. For a leadership team, they've got to look at how power is played out in the organisation and how do we share power around the boardroom table. Because if we don't share power well, it's going to make it really difficult and challenging for us to feel psychologically safe enough to share that power with others. And so in my two recent articles, one about an empowered leader and the other around leadership and understanding power, I kind of discuss some of these nuances, and I get you to start thinking about your relationship with power as a leader. The one thing I'd leave you with is that the one source of power that can't be changed is our internal power. But one of the things that our ego does, and what we tend to do, is strive for external forces of power, external resources of power, because they're the ones where other people approve of. That's when we have an external locus of control. When we have an internal locus of control, we are able to retain and resource our own power source, even when external powers are withdrawn from us, because all external power can be given and taken. Okay, internal power can't be given or taken, it has to be developed. And in the first layer of the systemic leadership development hierarchy, that personal layer is all about our personal power, our relationship with self, the ability to lead in a way that's authentic to our personality and our style and our values, but also to still have impact, because we have an understanding of the self that supports us in having a greater impact and influence on those around us, and in terms of the ultimate leadership goal that we have in front of us. If you have any questions or you'd like to speak to me about working with you or your team, you can email info@silewalsh.com and we can have a discussion. I look forward to hearing from you. Take care.